This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Yeah, Tim, let's give us your prognosis, your prediction, your view on what the Buffalo Bills will be this season.
I think we're going to see a very different Buffalo Bills team. I don't think we're going to see a super pass-heavy Buffalo Bills team. I think they're going to change it up. They're going to come out running. Maybe that means a lot more designed runs for Josh Allen. I think they're still going to succeed. They're still going to be a powerhouse. I got them at 12-5, winning their division. Spoiler alert, but I think they're going to be a great team no matter what. I love James Cook. I took him in our fantasy draft. I really do. So I think they're going to get there. I think Kincaid could have an amazing year. Offensively, I have no worries about this team at all. If there's any worries, it's actually defensively. But usually they play up to standard. So I'm not too worried about the Bills. I think they'll bounce back and just be as good as they were last year. So
12 wins. 12 wins.
Kyle,
Keenan,
how
your
do you
response
feel?
to that?
Oh, you want me to respond? Okay. I'm very similar. I have them 11-6. I also, spoiler alert, have them winning the division as well. I think really a lot of the points that Timmy makes, I kind of echoed that. We're going to see the second half of the season what they did last year. We're going to see a lot more of that. I think Josh Allen's going to use his legs more. He's going to be great, obviously, on third down. Dalton Kincaid could have a breakout season. You've got James Cook, who ran very well last season, and I think that's going to continue. Defensively, they are healthier, even though they did lose multiple pieces. They lost Tre'Davious White. They lost, I believe, both safeties in Jordan Poyer. But the Bills, naturally, they play well defensively. You've got a defensive-minded head coach in Sean McDermott. So the defense should be formidable. As long as they can keep games within 24, even 27 points, Josh Allen should be able to get enough done. So I have them 11-6 winning the division. I echo all of Timmy's sentiments.
I think I agree with you guys. Overall, I do think this team, I think their ceiling is 11 wins. I actually have them pegged at 10-7 right now. They do have a pretty tough schedule, which we saw last year. They were able to go through that gauntlet late last year. I think some of us here even thought they might not make the playoffs due to their injuries, due to their schedule. I think it was weeks maybe 13 through 18 last year, or maybe 12 through 17, something like that. But they had a very rough stretch. They have a similar stretch this year, honestly, from the middle of the season on. You have to have questions about their defense as far as health, with Milano going down. Like you said, losing both safeties, the depth might not be there, or at least the high-end talent might not be there. They probably actually have more depth. So, that's going to be what kind of makes and breaks their season, because I'm not worried about their offense either. I liked how they looked when they started to go more to a power run game last year. I think it suits them very well. Ultimately, again, 10-7, I think it's solid. I think they can get to 11-12, but I think their schedule is much tougher than those in the AFC East, namely the Jets. Jets have a pretty easy schedule, and we'll talk about them soon. And, they'll have the 2 games versus Miami. I think they got one early. I actually think they're week 2 at Miami on a Thursday night, and then I think they get Miami maybe week 12, something like that, somewhere in that range. So they're a very interesting team to me. I can see a world where they, maybe they only get to 8 wins. I don't expect it, though. That would have to be their absolute worst-case scenario. They are well-coached. I do not have them winning the division, but I do, again, have them at 10-7. So high expectations for them as far as, getting to the playoffs, and then we'll see from there. But I don't see a divisional win, and I do not see, a home playoff game necessarily. But we'll see how it shakes out. I got them, this is more of a barometer for them, really. And with their schedule, that's where it shook out for me. I'm wondering why you guys have them at 11-12 wins with the schedule that they have.
They are in a situation where they play, I know they have tough games, but Josh Allen's going to be the best quarterback on the field 98% of the time, except for when they play the Bengals or they play the Chiefs. other than that, he's the best quarterback on every field he'll step on. Will he play to that standard we see? We know that he turns the ball over sometimes at a high rate, but he also scores the ball more than anybody else in the league. So I think when you have a guy like that who can make clutch plays down the stretch defensively, they can get timely stops. They'll need a little bit more out of Ed Oliver this year. They'll Rasul Douglas at cornerback. We'll see what he can be because normally he's a slot. We see him outside, see how he'll be. But overall, I think the Bills in tough games, they've been in every moment other than obviously the Super Bowl. So I don't have them faltering.
Their season for sure. Tim, what about you?
Coming down to it, divisionally, I have them at 4-2. They dominate this division. I think very like the most fit they're going to get is from the Dolphins. So even if they split with them, I think that's it. And then I think the Jets. I trust the Bills more than I trust the Jets, at least offensively. So I'm just going to roll with history repeating itself. They're really good against their own division. They're going to dominate. They're going to get 2 wins, I think, from the Patriots, and I think that's what's going to put them at the 12-win spot. If not, worst case scenario, they're 10-win team. They're right around there. So.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I do think like if everything breaks right for them and that defense is, causing turnovers early on and their offense is just, in harmony, which I think it will be. Like I love how their offense looked last year. I think it made it really simple for Josh Allen. I think they're going to be just fine on offense. Milano though is like, they're probably the most high-end player they have. And for them not to have him until December, it does make you wonder if they suffer more injuries, which they will. They most likely will. If they suffer more injuries on defense, how are they going to survive that? Ultimately, again, I think they'll be okay. With you guys having them at 11 and 12 wins respectively, that must mean Josh Allen being in the top 3 MVP discussion, if not winning it all. I guess we'll get to that more so in awards, but you guys must have him pretty high up in the discussion by the sounds of it.
He'll naturally be in your top 5 every year, but I don't.
For sure.
He would be top 5, top 6 to not give anything away. Roughly top 5,
Gotcha.
top 6.
Gotcha. I feel the same exact way. Like no matter what, he's going to finish somewhere up there. He might be 3, and I feel like in a lot of other years he probably is like right around 3. Like last year, I'm pretty sure he finished 2nd, even though like Dak probably should have been ahead of him. So he's done it plenty of times. I don't think it's scary to say that he's going to do it again. So
for sure. I think as the years go by, honestly, I think Josh Allen is going to have a more compelling case for last year's MVP as time goes on. I feel like he was under talked about really last year with that stretch they went through, in that late November, December, January stretch with his stats. Yeah, I think he had a case last year, and I feel like he was really under
5th in MVP, but he was the only other person who got a first place vote, which stopped Lamar from getting back his 2 unanimous MVPs. Move on to the Dolphins.
Indeed. This team, I think I'm most excited to talk about.
I think the Dolphins they're going to be almost identical to what they were last year. They're going to start the season really hot. I think they have a very good case to be that team 6 weeks in that is potentially 6-0. I do think that. But I think they're going to fizzle out down the stretch. They're going to get figured out, and then everything's going to come crumbling around playoff times. So I have them at 10-7, 2nd place in their division. I think they're still a good team, and they're still high-powered offense that can drop 30 on pretty much any team. But it all comes down to Tua in the end of the day, and eventually they figure him out. So.
I echo pretty much everything you just said. I don't know exactly about obviously the 6-0, but I know what you're pointing to there. Out of their first 11 games, they could easily go 8-3, 7-4. But when you end the season at Green Bay, against the Jets, at Houston, against the 49ers, at Cleveland, at the Jets, it's a very tough end. I have them exactly at 10-7, 2nd in the division. And we'll talk about more so if they make the playoffs afterwards. But I have them 10-7, same thing as pretty much as last year. And then they're probably going to have to, if they are in the playoffs, take their show on the road. I won't fully give it away, unless we want to give it away now.
Well, I very much agree with both of you. honestly. It makes for a pretty boring beginning to this podcast because, I mean, I think we have the same exact forecast on the Miami Dolphins and by the sounds of Buffalo Bills. I do see this team either ending 10-7, 9-8, or 8-9. I don't see them going below 8-9. I don't necessarily see them going above 10 wins either. I mean, technically they could if everything breaks right. That schedule into even the middle of the season is pretty light, and they're pretty explosive, and they're going to put up points at home. That offense is a well-oiled machine. I would say outside of the Niners, they're probably my favorite offense to watch. I think it's no surprise. I mean, we know Tyreek, we know Waddle, we know Tua. They're all going to light it up early. And if they can get a healthy H-Chan, that's going to be another dimension to their offense on top of Mozart, on top of what could be a good defense, what could be at least a passable defense. Everyone's saying they crushed their draft, so maybe they have depth. They already got injuries. I don't know. I mean, this is a team. Yeah, I mean, their biggest hiccup is that they cannot win big games. They cannot play in cold weather at all, and we're kind of all penciling in that that's going to happen. As we should, by the way. They haven't showed us anything otherwise. They've played teams close at least, namely that Dallas game late last year. But they never seem to get it done, right? And then on top of that, as Keenan said, that last 8-game stretch is brutal. Like, there's no reason why they couldn't go like 1-7 in their last 8. I don't think that'll happen, but they really got to prove it to us. Ultimately, I got them at 9-8, and that will be third in the division. I think, obviously, I do not have the Pats first in the division. So, I mean, spoiler alert here, I got the Jets first. And we can segue right into them unless you want to keep talking Dolphins. Is there anything?
Nope.
I do have quick questions here. Is there anything, any hope at all? Like, do you guys see any chance of Tua, of Mike McDaniel, like any sort of glimpse of positivity that they could win big games, that they could turn it around this year, that it could be different? Obviously, your predictions don't reflect that, but what world do you see that it would have to happen? Would it have to be injuries, or do they outright just have to do it? Or would it have to be injuries to other squads?
It would have to be leaning on the run game in those kind of moments, getting good line push offensively. And defensively, they would have to make sure they stay in games, and Tua would have to make plays late in games. And he's shown the capabilities of doing it every now and again, but we've also seen him throw picks. We've also seen him not complete fourth downs. We've seen him not do the greatest of jobs. I mean, they should have clinched the division last year against the Bills, but they kind of choked that game away towards the end of it. So, I mean, it would have to come down. Really, can the defense overperform? Can they actually stick to the run game? And Tua, can you be good on third downs? Can you be good on late game drives? And I don't fully have confidence in any. I mean, they have confidence in the run, just will they stick to it? And I don't have confidence really in the other two.
I can see a world where it does happen. Like, I think if they win this division, then Tua is going to be 1 or 2 in MVP. And I can see a world where that happens, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get a very similar year to last year with Tua, where he has some big games, some big 300-yard passing games and a bunch of touchdowns. But then we also see the games where he kind of just folds and lets the team down. If he was in the MVP talks, it would have to be they started out so hot. They put up 21 points in the first, and then they ran the clock out in the second, and they win a bunch of games because of that. And he doesn't have to make those big plays like Keenan was saying at the end of games. If they can put him in a situation like that, he can be in the MVP. They can win a bunch of games. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's exactly how it would have to happen.
It'd have to look like the 49ers, where the 49ers, I mean, not that Brock Purdy's shown that he can make plays in bigger games, so I don't want to take that away. But I'm saying the 49ers, a lot of the time in the fourth quarter, didn't have games to play. Or like midseason, the Dolphins, they didn't really have fully games to play late in the game because they were just up so early. So it'd have to be explosive offense. But so I agree with Timmy, what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really hinges on their defense because we're assuming right now that they do get off to a hot start. They should. I mean, again, that offense is such a well-oiled machine. They should be okay against those teams, especially at those home games, especially in the warm weather games. They should be all right. There's a world where they're not. And if that's the case, it's all going to fall apart. I don't think that's going to happen. They've got way too many weapons. But if this defense is formidable at all and can steal them a couple games mid-season, we might be in a spot where everything we say is still correct. They still fall in these big games. They still just come up short. They still can't deliver in cold weather. But if they can steal a couple games before that rough stretch, and I mean, they'd really have to go into that stretch at something like 8-2, whatever, or very, leading the division, leading the conference even, for them to really be in that sort of position. But if this defense can hold up and just kind of take pressure off of Tua, there is a world. There is a world. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't love that last stretch for them. I still think they could be in the playoffs, but that they're the most fascinating. I don't want to say that because I think the Jets are the most fascinating, but they're the biggest swing team for me in this division on what it could be. Along with the Bills in a way, because again, we talked about their defense and, the talent there, but the Dolphins, they could almost kind of make and break this division when it comes to those three teams. There could be a world where all three make it to the playoffs. But it really does seem like if they falter at all, the other two get through, and the Jets and the Bills. You actually sounds like both of you have them 1 and 2, Bills, Dolphins.
Yep.
Very interesting. So let's go to the Jets. Make the case for me. Why are they not making the playoffs?
I actually have them making the playoffs as the 7th seed. I have them at 10-7 as well. So a dead tie for second and third there. They're both 3-3 in the division, but I think the Dolphins just win the head-to-head matchup or something. I'm not sure. Either way, they're the 7 seed, 10-7. I think they're going to succeed. I think their defense is still going to be great. I think they still have superstars, and I think we're going to see a real breakout season for Garrett Wilson this year. I'm worried a little bit about Rodgers just because we haven't seen him play at an MVP level in over 2 years now. So that's hard to be like, let's bank on winning the division with the Jets with that. Last year I was really high on them, but that was just 1 year removed from being an MVP. Now it's 2 years. So I'm a little bit lower this year than I was last year.
Got you.
I have them missing the playoffs at 9-8. I do think that I do understand the people because they have an easier schedule, especially early on. You've got the Titans, you got the Patriots, you got Denver, and they face some tough teams. Obviously, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Houston, Arizona is going to be more frisky. Same with the Colts. Seahawks are a well-coached team. They've got to go into their last 6 games. They've got to go into their last 6 games 8 wins. 8-9 wins because their last 6 is versus Seattle, at Miami, at Jacksonville, against the Rams, at Buffalo, against Miami. So that's a very tough end of the season. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not playing in the preseason. He's barely played any actual snaps with this roster. I think there's going to be a learning curve. Him and Robert Saleh don't seem to really know what's going on there. Like Robert Saleh is just allowing him to kind of just be like, wherever Aaron is, this kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love the vibe over there, and I don't love Aaron coming off of Achilles at 40. Those are the two things but again, they have the talent. The defense is there. They've built that offensive line. You got Vera Tucker coming back. You've got Tyron Smith. You got Moses. Oh my God, why am I blanking on his last name right now? Moses. I'm sorry, Morgan Moses. Thank you. Morgan Moses. So you've got great tackles. You've got a great guard coming back, and then you've got weapons. So overall, they have the talent and everything to be there. I just think that it's going to be more of a chemistry thing. And in football, we've seen that plenty of times where the chemistry and the kind of things couldn't be off, even though the roster is still very good.
I hear what you're saying. Let me ask both of you this. What is your biggest question about the New York Jets? Kian, you kind of answered it just barely. You got
coaching and Aaron Rodgers' health.
For sure. Tim?
I would say offensive coordinator. Hackett, we just haven't seen him cut it without an MVP level Aaron Rodgers. Like even the last year in Green Bay, it was kind of spotty. I definitely do question the O-line. I know they grade it really high and they say that the moves they've made is good, but until we see it, I can't believe it. It's the same thing with like the Giants. They can tell me that they have a top 10 O-line. Until I see them not give up 5 sacks in a game, I'm not going to believe it. I do have a little bit of worry about the offensive line.
Mhm. Chemistry matters more in football than really any other sport. Like, obviously, if you have a collection of talent in basketball, at some point the talent's going to be so overwhelming that through a season they're going to probably make it work, and if not the next season they're absolutely going to make it work. We've seen that with so many teams. If you have a collection of people, if they don't work together, then that team's just very talented, and we've seen plenty of talented teams miss the playoffs before. If we think back to like the '08, I think, or '09 Eagles when they got Nnamdi Asomugha and everybody, and they were supposed to be this juggernaut, and then they were terrible. But or maybe in like 2012 or whatnot, but whatever year that was, Kyle going.
I would agree with both of you. I mean, Tim's got him in the playoffs. I'll answer Tim first with the OC. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is basically the OC. I do get what you're saying because Nat Hackett without Aaron Rodgers is just, I don't know. He's a
Josh
shoe salesman.
McDaniels without Tom Brady.
He's a shoe salesman or some shit like that. Like Hackett's just out of the league without it. So I mean, we saw how he was as a head coach, right? As far as chemistry, that would be mainly my concern too. Last year, right? That was kind of my thing. How Saleh and Rodgers gonna mix? You combine the talent on this team with the schedule, I don't even think they're going to be able to get the bad vibes. I mean, you're catching the Niners at the right time in week one. Warm weather, you're at San Francisco, right? Then you got the Titans, Patriots, and Broncos back to back, and then the Vikings on top of that. Then you get the Bills at home, right? You're really only going to get tested that Bills game and that Niners game those first 5-6 weeks. And again, you're catching the Niners at the right time, especially if they don't have Trent Williams that game. I believe Williams will play. I think he eventually plays. But if for say he does not, he misses week one, that's advantage Jets right there. That's advantage Jets D line right there. You can make the case, a strong case, that this is the most talented team on both sides of the ball in the entire league. You combine that with a weak schedule, I don't see a way they go below 9 wins. I actually have them winning the division with 11 wins. They could even get to 12. I don't think it gets to 12. I think you have to be a great, great team to get to 12. But if you got Saleh basically being a DC, you got Rodgers as the OC, you got enough talent there. Okay, he's got to stay healthy. And really that all hinges on Tyron Smith's health. If he can stay healthy, Rodgers should stay healthy. That line should be okay because, yeah, after that left tackle goes down, in theory, then what do you got? Then you're in real trouble. But they did beef up their biggest weakness. This team went 7-10 in back-to-back years with Zach Wilson. Now you have an actual able-bodied quarterback, even if he is coming off an Achilles injury. I don't have my full playoff team list as of yet, but I do think, again, I mentioned this last time with the Dolphins, I do think there is a case for all three of the Bills, of the Dolphins, of the Jets making it. I got the Jets being the cream of the crop, really just because of their schedule. I don't necessarily think this is the best team in the division, though the talent would say that. I think I would trust the Bills more when it comes to playoff time. But, I mean, what's really not to like about this team? I hate saying that. I mean, obviously, it's well known my thoughts on the New York Jets. But I can't see a world, unless they just lose some of these easy games early, I don't see a world where they don't make the playoffs. I don't see a world where they just falter and then the chemistry comes out. Of course it could. It's the New York Jets. Nothing good ever happens for them. I mean, we could see a world where back-to-back years on Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers suffers back-to-back season-ending injuries. Like, that would just be the Jets' luck. I'm not wishing that. I'm not putting that out in the air. But if it was one franchise that was going to happen to, it would be the New York Jets. So, other than that, I can't see a world where they do not make the playoffs. And, yeah, I have them winning the division. That might put them in Colts territory because the Colts have more AFC East titles than the Jets, and the Colts aren't even in their division any longer. So, yeah, this should be the year, if any year, for the Jets. And if not, hey, Jets gun Jets. But I do think they get to 11 wins. I do think they win the division. And, yeah, and then it's really on and popping after that if we see them in the playoffs.
Okay. And we don't have to spend much time on this team. Last but not least, the New England Patriots. Timmy.
I was not very big on them last year. You guys definitely were not on board with that. And it came true. I was correct.
100% true.
It was very nice. I think I have them better this year than I predicted last year. I'm a little worried because they still haven't named Drake May the starting quarterback. That would be cool if they finally did that. Like I was telling Kyle all summer, I don't see a world where he's not the starting QB by week 4 or 5. I think realistically, he's going to start the season as their starting QB. He's been playing better than Brissett, and Jacoby got hurt in the preseason game. I guess came on his shoulder, has a stinger, whatever it is. Um, I think they're going to just give the nod to May eventually, and then let him roll with it. I don't think this team has enough talent to win a lot of games. The best talented player, one of the best they had, they just traded him away. So I just don't think this is their year by any means. It's going to be a tough look for Mayo in his first year, but I got him.
Understatement.
I got him at 5-12, last place. Um, yeah, I think they can load up and get a nice wide receiver in this year's class. They're going to have a top 6 or 7 pick. So I think this is maybe bright future for next year or the year after that, but this is not their year.
No, not their year at all. Timmy, I have been 5-12 as well. We literally have this entire division the same, other than one game by the Jets, and we both have them as the 3 seed. And that one game for you puts them in the playoffs. But anyways, I think this year for the Patriots, I want to see some flashes. Obviously, defensively, Gerard Mayo, I know you have a hand in the defense always while Bill Belichick was there, but Bill Belichick was able to take less talented defenses and still make them very talented and still make them good ball hawks. We're going to play sound. We're going to play disciplined. I want to see if we can have that same level of discipline, same level of soundness defensively, so there's not a drop off from Bill Belichick to Gerard Mayo. Obviously, Bill Belichick is the GOAT defensive coach for sure. Offensively,
Go
Drake
coach.
May, if it's the GOAT coach, yes, I'm just talking defense, but yes, GOAT coach. Offensively, you have Drake May. If he plays 12 games, 10 games, 16 games, 17 games, however many games, I want to see some games with some flashes. I don't expect a bunch of wins, but I want to see some plays where you're like, okay, that's starting level. Okay, that's definitely starting level plays. A couple games where you walk out of it like, okay, he might have been the best quarterback on the field today. Like, there's games where he can have that opportunity, and I would like to see that happen. And then Jalen Polk, I'd like to see a little something from him. Demario Douglas, can you continue to ascend? Ramondre Stevenson, obviously in the backfield, can we keep that going? And then the offensive line, can we see some camaraderie there? We understand that it's not the most talented, but can we get a little bit of camaraderie there on the offensive line? And then next year, I would like to target getting another tackle and then getting some also wide receiver help for him, like Timmy was talking about in the draft. But 5-12, I want to see flashes, and that's it.
I mean, look, my only thing I want to see this season out of the Patriots is, can Gerard Mayo coach? Does he have a hold on the locker room? Does he have, do we just look like a cohesive team? We know we're not a good team. We know we're not a talented team. Can we just be a cohesive team? Can this just look like a semblance of a football team? I actually don't think they're too bad as far as compared to last year's team. I think they might have improved talent-wise a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, not the offensive line. I believe the offensive line is just that. It's offensive. There's no reason to put Drake May behind it at all. I do think by week 6 we do see Drake May, but I wouldn't be mad for them holding him out the whole entire season. There was no reason to risk injury with this guy. We saw in the last preseason game just how bad the offensive line looked. They weren't in sync at all. Penalties, miscues. There's no reason to put a rookie quarterback who you have real expectations for behind this offensive line. And it's unfortunate because this defense is, in my opinion, outside of the defensive line, loaded with talent, especially the secondary. They might have the deepest secondary in the league, arguably. Tons of young talent over there, versatile talent, especially at the safety position. It sucks that they will not have Christian Barmore for at least probably 4 weeks on top of the Judon trade. They had a lot of time without Judon last year, and they really didn't miss a beat. Keen, I agree with you. Gerard Mayo, I mean, look, this is a beloved Patriot who came in right after Teddy Bruschi and did not miss a beat. And if you know what Teddy Bruschi means to Pats fans, and for Gerard Mayo to just pick up on that pretty much since his rookie year, got injured early. His career ended early, and then pretty much, I think, immediately joined our coaching staff and worked his way up to DC. And, had a huge helping hand in the last few years of this defense. I mean, again, our team was trash last year, and the defense overperformed. Mayo had a lot to do with that. Um, can he hold on to the locker room? Can he motivate his team? This should be a team in theory that, yeah, I'll just skip to it. I got them at 5-12 as well. I think they're more likely going to get 3 or 4 wins, but 5 is being hopeful. 6 would be a fucking miracle. If there were 6, that would be, about an average team. I don't think they can get there at all, especially with this schedule. But man, if they could even get to 5, that's encouraging. And if we see Drake May again, if I saw Drake May 2 or 3 games this year, I'd be okay with that. I would be okay if we didn't see him. So it would be, again, almost a miracle if this team got to 5. That's wishful thinking for me. I just want to see cohesiveness from this team. I just want to see leadership from Gerard Mayo. And then we can really start to talk about this team next year. And if not, if this team still, we get to week 17 going into the playoffs and this team looks like a disaster, it's not going to be good moving forward at all. So, yeah, just keep Drake May and bubble wrap if they got real plans for him, which they do. But, unless you absolutely have to play him, then you play him. But I believe Jacoby will be starting week 1. I believe Jacoby will probably play at least the first 4 to 6 weeks, but wouldn't mind if it was all 17.
Okay. Well, now moving on to the AFC West, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs.
Let me ask you guys though, who's the player out of the AFC East, out of all 4 teams, that you are most excited to watch? Unanswerable questions that can be answered now, all offseason, that.
Aaron Rodgers.
That's the easy answer, right?
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one, and then Tua. You've got your money now. Are you going to take that next step, or are you just who you are? But Aaron Rodgers, that's easy for me. I understand it's a boring answer, but Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
I think it's Garrett Wilson. There's been just so much hype behind Wilson. He was amazing in college. He came in. He was offensive rookie of the year. And then he had another 1,000-yard season with Zach Wilson. That's an amazing feat already to do that with such terrible quarterback play. I think his ceiling is just so high. So I think if Aaron Rodgers is still good, that we're going to have a lot of fun watching Garrett Wilson dominate. So him or either Breece Hall. But
yep.
Breece Hall is kind of easy because he's been dominating no matter what.
Yep.
Yeah, anything to do with the Jets is the easy answer here, right? Like he said, Aaron Rodgers, we obviously want to see him really 2 or 3 years removed from a good season. I mean, even his last season in Green Bay was kind of underwhelming. So he's the easy answer. I kind of already said this before, though. Miami is the other sneaky one where I'm like, all right, it's time to put up or shut up, really, for them, because they do have tons of talent. They do seemingly have a good head coach, but now they really gotta put it to the test here. They really got to win games that they didn't win, in the past 2 years, because they are an exciting team and they're a capable team, but can they really put it all together? So on top of Rodgers, the Jets experiment, it'll be the Dolphins that I'm really paying attention to this season.